On tonight's edition of the Fatside, we'll run you through what's been a massive round 8 of the AFL. Bobby and I will give you our games of the round. We'll give you our best players 1 to 5. I'm going to touch on a few hot topics. Bobby's going to give you his hot and cold and compare the pair. And I'm going to shine the spotlight on a couple of things. Bobby, let's get into it. Yes, good evening everybody and welcome to the Fatside. I'm joined here with Bobby. Bobby, how are you, mate?
Mate, I'm fantastic. Look, round 8 in the books and there's some very significant results to discuss.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's starting to take shape this season, isn't it? Really is.
It really is. There's been some serious movement across the AFL ladder after this weekend, and Dane Rampy nearly needed one to get down from the post. So I don't know if someone from Asada decided to test him after that performance, but.
Tell you what, my multi wasn't really great, and sorry to any punters out there that thought Jack's multi was a good idea.
We'll give you a mulligan on that one.
Yeah.
But look, let's touch on the results. Obviously, that contentious Sydney-Essendon game was the first game of the round that ticked us off on a Friday night. It ended up being a 5-point win to Sydney. They had some pretty solid contributions from Parker, and young Blakey looked really good. Fantasia back in the team for the Bombers. He bagged 4, and look, the umpires were best on at the end of the day. The second game of the round. Your Doggies versus the Brisbane Lions. Pretty gutsy win. You've got to be happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
92-76. Dunkley, another good week in the middle. Norton, your boy, Astro.
Naughty Norton.
Yeah, 3 goals too. At the other end of the ground, Hipwood was pretty wasteful, 2 goals, 5. Then we were treated to what was a fair cliffhanger. You and I were ping-ponging our heads between the two screens down at the pub. Collingwood-Carlton. That was a serious dogfight.
Oh, it was awesome. Traditional rivals, middle of the MCG, Saturday afternoon, loved it.
Look, the last 5 goals went to the Pies, and that's obviously what got them over the line. Grundy was pretty huge again, and arguably the umpires were best on again. Now,
I think you guys are starting to gather that we're going to be touching on the umpires in this episode.
They're in my votes. No. All right, Melbourne and Gold Coast. That was a thriller. It was a real thriller. 60-61 the end result. T-Mac kicking the point at the very end of the game after Holman bagged that really nice goal that I thought would be what did the Melbourne Demons in. Oliver, he was pretty huge. Your boy Harms was good again.
Harmsy.
And so was Nick Holman for Gold Coast. He had a great game. West Coast and St Kilda. Well, 2 weeks in a row we've penned West Coast in for a win. And they've kind of let us down. It hasn't been thrilling stuff. They won by 3 goals. It was 88-70. Not really great from the Weagles. Pretty wasteful too. It was 12 goals, 16. And then the derby. I really expected this to be a little bit better. I'm going to call it out early. I actually said to this man at the pub, because we saw the outs for Port Adelaide and the lack of quality coming back in, I said I'm going to change my tip to Adelaide before the game started.
Can confirm, tip changed.
Thank you. In the end, Adelaide won 22 points. Rocky was pretty good for Port. He was enormous. He had 41. And Alex Keith, well-deserved medal for that fella. Sloan was pretty great as well. And Tom Lynch kicked 3 goals.
Yeah, he was great, Tom Lynch.
He was fantastic, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Geelong and North Melbourne. Obviously, Geelong won that by about 4 goals. Ablett kicked 4 himself. Another superstar performance. Kelly as well, right up there. Those two are having great years. Joel Selwood was a late out and Charlie Constable in. I thought he had a pretty good game too.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Made some impact. Ben Brown has to be mentioned. Kicked 5 straight. He was pretty huge for North.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
Oh, he was just so powerful with that. He got his lead back. The leading patterns look like they're back. Yeah, it was good to watch.
Then Hawthorne GWS, upset of the round, obviously, if you guys follow the games as closely as we do. Big upset, 71-38. GWS just couldn't get it into their forward line almost at all. And when they did, Jeremy Cameron could not kick straight. I thought Henderson was pretty massive for Hawthorn, and so was McAvoy at another great game. Then Richmond, Freo. Well, this was pretty much the only game of the round that you and I disagreed on, Jacko. I must admit, your confidence in Freo had me second-guessing myself when I walked away from the pod last week.
I was pretty dead set on them.
You were dead set. And in the end, Richmond won. Classy finish, and they kicked a good score. Freo kicked a good score too, so I don't think you undersold them. I think they put up a pretty good performance.
Yeah, that was a remarkable win by Richmond.
It was a fantastic win. Maybe contender for goal of the year from Castagna. That was a fantastic goal. But what I want to know, Jacko, is what's your game of the round and why?
My game of the round, I'm going to focus on Hawthorne and GWS.
Good.
It's not game of the round because of the result certainly wasn't game of the round. But there's a few key talking points I want to go through here.
Excellent. Give it to me.
Alrighty. So GWS, they're contenders. Top four finish is looking likely, but they need to learn how to play on the MCG. This is becoming a real issue. They're now 1-8 since it's mattered, since they've been winning games of football consistently.
What are we talking? 2015?
Yeah. And two of them have been in finals, and one, and a couple of close ones here and there. But I don't know if it's the travelling to Melbourne factor. I don't know if it's the ground itself, because I think at Marvel they're not so bad. I think they're still under 50% on the win-loss ratio there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's becoming a real problem. And they just got absolutely bashed at the contest.
Didn't they?
Absolutely hammered. Numbers off the ball, it was terrible. They were like a good 15 metres off the pace at all times off their man, and Hawthorne just run rampant. And and Hawthorne just from the get-go had control of the game, took control of the game, and as we touched on Alistair Clarkson last week, I mean he just loves a bit of real talk, and and his team responded. His team responded to his comments.
It looked like they structured up really well, really early.
Yeah.
What his emphasis was on was that they hold their structure early on, and that they stay diligent all game.
Yes.
And they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I mean Roughhead spent a week in the Magoos and kicked 5.
Captain coached the opposition and kicked 5.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a bit later in the show, Bobby. But Bobby, your game around. Tell me why.
Oh, look, mate, obviously it had to be the arm wrestle that was. It was Collingwood-Carlton. That was a fantastic game to watch. I've never been more impressed with the Carlton. I haven't been that impressed with the Carlton footy team for... God, they beat my Bombers, so I've hated them as well. But I have a soft spot for them because I want to see them get back up and about and be the big powerhouse that they should be. The score's even at half-time. From that moment on, I was impressed.
Yeah.
Score's even. You've done excellently well.
Collingwood's fast starts.
I've been talking to you for weeks now about how Collingwood keep losing quarters, but they've had such fast starts it didn't matter. And it nearly mattered on the weekend. It really nearly mattered that they could not get off the line early. Carlton's pressure levels, I haven't seen that for, 5-6 years.
Yeah.
A really long time, it feels like. And at the end of the day, if you look at the stats, nearly every metric was even, except for forward 50 entries. The Pies won that 69-43. That's staggering to have 26 more forward 50 entries for the game and to have only sealed the win in the last 5 minutes. The Blues actually won the inside 50 efficiency factor. It was 58-46%. Probably doesn't mean a hell of a lot, but I'm surprised by the efficiency of Carlton going forward. For Collingwood, Treloar was really good. Phillips had a great game, but he only tracked at 55% disposal efficiency. But Patrick Cripps, that guy. Just, it felt like here's someone that once this club gets up and about and drags himself out of the mire and plays consistent footy, he looks like a big game player.
Oh, he's an absolute warrior. Yeah.
How much does that elevate his potential to be the best in the comp?
It's ridiculous, because once they're competitive, there's no ceiling, really.
Carlton supporters should be absolutely licking their lips. Oh, we might... Like, the year that you finally think that you're going to make a final, if you make one, that man might try and win it all by himself.
Yeah.
He did at the very end when he had a nice contested mark in the middle. He gave a bit of a sloppy handball, and the chain ended up with him grabbing it from about 60 out, nice little zigzag run,
shimmy,
and slotted it. Didn't it look nice?
Yeah, well, we were at the pub watching that, and obviously we were concentrating more on my doggies, but, every head turned to that monitor when he did that. The roof fell off the pub, and I can't imagine being at the G. It would have been electric. Might I just add to Patrick Cripps while we're on it? He's just an absolute warrior. He's played 89 games of senior footy. So, come on.
Fantastic.
I don't want to know how good he'll be at the 150 to 200 mark, but you can see his leadership is ridiculously elite, and you can see the hurt when they lose.
Yeah, I agree.
He bleeds for that club.
Look, speaking of elite, Brodie Grundy.
Oh, boy.
If you haven't caught up with it, this is the second time in recorded history that someone has had 25 disposals, over 45 hit-outs, and 2 goals to their name. That's staggering numbers. He is in Brownlow form. Forget All-Australian, forget best and fairest. This guy is in Brownlow form, which is fantastic to see a ruckman up there in that conversation.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to mention, we'll just touch on it quickly, the umpires. I think it has to be mentioned.
Yeah.
The free kick count at the end of the match was 24 to Collingwood and 8 to Carlton.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could not believe Carlton's pressure.
Staggering.
And there is no, from watching that game, there is no way you could see a justification as to why there's a 16 number free kick difference.
Yeah.
No way.
It was a complete dogfight at both ends.
And look, 10 minutes to go, we were watching it. The Blues had all the momentum. When Cripps kicked that goal, from then on, it really looked like they had it going, and the umpires extinguished that flame very fast. There was a pretty clear, what looked to be a very clear touch behind. I'm adamant that was touched on the replay.
Well, yeah, close-up view, it would suggest
So was
Jamie Elliott's middle finger bent.
So was the
90
commentary
degrees.
team on the
Yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
How someone didn't overrule that, I'm really staggered. And a few,
Did they even review it? They just showed it.
I believe they review every goal.
Yeah. Well, they just went straight back to the centre and, and Bob's your uncle, off you go. There wasn't really much of a... I don't know, they continued pretty quickly.
Probably reviewed by Eddie Maguire, that decision.
Yeah. He was on his phone.
Yeah, look,
Captured on...
it's really hard to say that cost the Blues the game, because in those last 5 minutes, we said it at the time, or it was said at the time, Carlton played like Carlton for 5 minutes, and it cost them the game.
What you just touched on then, what you alluded to, was that, that didn't quite cost them the game, but it ruined their momentum, it killed it. That was it.
Yeah, and it was game over. Collingwood, all multiple goal scorers, 5 goals in a row in the last 5 or 6, 7 minutes to finish off that game. It was a pretty impressive display. It was like Collingwood stepped it up at the end and Carlton dropped off, but yeah, it was a little bit too late when you've had the win taken out of you from those decisions. So that's enough of an umpire dragging for now, because there'll be plenty to come. Give me your votes, Jack. I want to know who you thought was the best performed of the round. Start me off with your first vote.
My first vote goes to Adelaide key defender, Alex Keith. He was enormous for Adelaide. Yeah, I couldn't speak higher of him. He's having such a great year this season so far. He has had 26 touches on the weekend, 12 intercept possessions as well. So he was just huge in defence and getting that ball straight back out of Port Adelaide's 50. He'll continue this form. He's looking really good. My 2 votes goes to Melbourne's Clayton Oliver. Absolute. 2 votes. He could probably deserves more, but that was his best game year to date by a mile. 38 touches, a whopping 15 tackles. That's enormous. Back to his best footy, and he willed his side over the line. He really did. My 3 votes goes to Collingwood's big ruckman, Brodie Grundy, as you touched on before. He's just getting better and better game by game. 25 touches, 2 goals, 48 hit-outs, and just arguably one of the most important figures in Collingwood's side. Without him, do they win as many games? Who knows? But he's just an integral part of that club going forward, and he's just becoming a champion of our game. 4 votes goes to Tim Kelly of the Geelong Footy Club. 36 touches, 2 goals. He's just a unit, this guy. He just is a Rolls Royce. Can you believe he's a second-year player and he's doing this week in, week out?
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And Geelong just keep tracking along really nicely. My 5, you can't give it to anyone else. It's the Carlton skipper. It's Paddy Cripps.
Mama, there goes that man.
Fantastic.
35 touches, 19 of them contested. Doing everything. Bleeds for the Blues. Doing everything he can on the big stage to will them across the line against the giant Collingwood Footy Club. And they fell short, as we just touched on. But 7 tackles and that one special goal that lifted Roos off everywhere around Melbourne, if not Australia at the time. Yeah, he was just enormous, and he's just going to get better and better.
Any notable mentions that you'd like to add in?
I'd like to mention Luke Parker of the Sydney Swans.
He had a good game.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Well, his best game year to date.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sydney needed him to step up, and he did, and it got them the victory in the end. But yeah, look, he was great. Josh Dunkley was good. We had really good standout performances everywhere. I even loved, that 5. Like 30 odd and 3 goals, just insane. So I'd say, I could go on, but they're my notable mentions. Bobby, give me your top 5 of round 8.
Well, look, this is an odd conversation. We don't pre-plan these. I have no idea what Jack's votes are going to be before he reads them out.
Are yours the same?
On a Wednesday night. I have a slightly different order, but all 5 are the same.
Oh, there you go.
First vote goes to Clayton Oliver.
That'd be a first, wouldn't it?
This is a first.
Yeah.
Everything you said, he had a great game. That's his best game year to date. I liked his 6 intercept possessions. I thought they were pretty important. Obviously, his performance was not really enough for them to win that game, because Nick Holman's goal at the end, 40 seconds to go. Yeah. Nick Holman looked like a jet when he kicked that goal. I thought this is done and dusted. Yep. But, in the end, great game from Clayton Oliver. Lucky win for the Melbourne Footy Club. My 2 votes, Alex Keith. That was a fantastic back performance. Earlier in the year, we were really giving plaudits to guys like Shannon Hearn when they had special games. Winning a medal's a pretty special event for what should be a standard home and away round. So I thought he was great to stand up in a pressure game like that. My 3 votes goes to Tim Kelly of the Geelong Footy Club. His Brownlow odds have to be shortening.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be.
Week on week.
Look, the only reason I gave him 3, I know you gave him 4, it was the 61% disposal efficiency. That's a little bit off for me. I really liked his 3 goal assists to go along with his 2 goals. You know, the other week when I gave Ablett big raps, and I think I gave him 4 votes, it was not just the goals that he kicked, it was the direct goal assists. I think those 2 guys are really, really damaging for Geelong at the moment, and they're playing fantastic footy. 4 votes goes to Brodie Grundy. This was obviously my game of the round, so I think the 2 standout performances deserve the top votes. It is time to start talking a Brownlow for a ruckman again. Finally, it's been a really long time. Like I said to you last week, the Dean Cox comparisons.
Yeah.
As each week progresses, I really delved into the numbers this week. Most of Brodie Grundy's numbers across individual stats eclipse all of Dean Cox's, except for some of the contested marking and the goals. But I'm really, really on the Brodie Grundy hype train. I love him. 5 votes, Paddy Cripps.
Mama, there goes that man.
For all the reasons you've said. I actually said to you today, Patrick Cripps the year he's having is, not to be biased, but I'm comparing their styles. Jobe Watson, someone that wasn't a great exponent of the football by foot.
2012 Jobe.
But was elite by hand. You know, and almost every single one of Patrick Cripps' handballs found space for a teammate on the weekend.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, they could have got blown out. There could have been a 10-minute momentum swing instead of a 5-minute one at any point during the match if it wasn't for his effort in the midfield.
Yeah.
It was huge. I think he's having a Brownlow year, and to do it so young, like you pointed out, is really, really something special. So, look, I'm just going to give you guys the leaderboard. After this round, we've had a slight variation. We now have tied for our leaderboard for Player of the Year, Scott Pendlebury and Brodie Grundy. Lachie Neale sits on 12. We've got Jeremy Cameron, Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody is on 11. Lachie Whitfield, Eddie Betts are on 10. But Pendles and Brodie Grundy tied for 14. I'll add in the other votes and see where that ranks everyone else. Oh, Patrick Cripps, sorry. 2 lots of 5. This guy's hauling it in.
Yeah.
He's also tied at the top. So Grundy, Cripps, and Scott Pendlebury all tied on our leaderboard. So that is what we have for the votes this week. Jack, why don't you lead us into the next segment?
Fantastic. All right. Now this is going to get pretty deep here. A bit of real talk. We've just got to hit the hot topics of round 8 and what's come out of it. First and foremost, I want to touch on the match review office. All right. We're going to talk about Ablett and Fife. Should they or shouldn't they have got off? And young Durden for North Melbourne, I felt was pretty unlucky. Yeah, and then we'll touch on our favourite topic of all. The umpires and the administration of the league as well. We have to touch on as well. So let's get cracking. All right. So Gary Ablett, 2 weeks in a row. This is the second time in a row he's done the same action. So he's gone up with that forearm elbow. Mm-hmm. Pretty clumsy. Not totally malicious. I don't think. I think he's protecting his bung shoulders, to be honest, in his own little way. But I mean, it doesn't look great. And to do it 2 weeks in a row, same player, it's really unique. And Michael Christian, I think he just didn't really want to face the music this week, and he cleared him pretty quickly.
A bit weak from Michael Christian for
Massively weak, yeah, because he gave him a week, and then it got turned down in the tribunal, and he goes, it must be a confidence thing with him. He went, okay, well, you know, my opinion doesn't matter, obviously, from last week, so why should I even bother this week? And
well, he could have graded him reckless and high contact.
Yeah, absolutely. So the grading could have been different.
Yep.
However, I just think that he swept it under the rug this week, and it was a pretty weak move on his behalf.
Yeah, well, you know, he can be lumped into the same basket as the rest of the AFL hierarchy. They're having a pathetic week at the moment. So
yeah. Oh, arguably, yeah. It's been pretty disappointing from the get-go.
Look, the Gary Ablett, the action.
Yeah.
I actually.
It was worse than last week.
Well, last week I didn't think he should have gone to the tribunal at all.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of feel the same this week. But the one thing I will say about the difference between the Shield one and this one against North, he looked like he went further out of his way to make contact.
Yeah.
And I understand Chris Scott's assessment of, he's trying to bump a bar and the technique's wrong. Well, what's the penalty for stuffing up? Because apparently it's nothing.
I'll tell you what, the last person that will ever be on a match review panel will be Chris Scott.
Oh, ridiculous.
Yeah. His grading's astronomically terrible.
Yeah, he's pretty poor.
I mean, it's his own player, but I mean, yeah, come on, turn it up.
Yeah.
Nat Fyfe's. Look, Tom Lynch got straight back up. It looked heavy. Looked like a heavy hit. And I'm sure Tom Lynch for 2 to 3 seconds was seeing a few little stars around his eyes. But look, he got back up, and obviously the medical report's quite important when grading, grading it. And he got off. Yeah, he got cleared as well. Not even a fine or anything.
Yeah, there's not. That was faster. I mean, they were on a collision course.
Yeah.
That seemed a little bit more
Well,
reactionary.
he didn't go out his way like Ablett did.
Correct.
Yes.
Ablett, second week in a row, left the ground and raised his arms.
2 weeks in a row.
I'm staggered. If there was a penalty for repeat offences or a penalty, if there was a what the bloody hell are you doing tax, he deserves to pay it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And young Durden from North Melbourne going for the footy. I was watching the game at home. Sort of struck Gary Rowan in the head.
It's a shepherd.
It's a shepherd. Yeah, heat of the contest, and at that pace, I mean, physics would tell you that necks do bend.
How much
they
physics?
clashed heads.
How much physics do you reckon Durden's doing in that moment?
Yeah, not many. No, it won't be. It's not Jeremy Lin getting to the hole, is it?
Time quadratic formula over hyperbola equal spin and move.
Yeah, no, you're not.
You know what
wrong.
I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? But young Durden, really unlucky. Cops a week. He's not a big name superstar. And the debate all week across all media landscapes of the AFL is there discrimination? Are the big name players being protected? Well,
it's pretty obvious.
Absolutely.
Gary Ablett's the prime example.
Yep.
And it's not because we're singling him out and talking about him more. The evidence is what you rightly pointed out, Michael Christian.
Yeah.
1 week is intentional.
Yeah.
And the next week is nothing to answer for. Why do you even have a grading system?
Yeah.
Go down to the pub, Michael Christian. Go down to the pub and ask the people what they think. Most of them are going to tell you you're an idiot. So you're not aligned with supporters' expectations, and you need to readdress that.
How's 2 blokes with eyes on the footy intentional, and he accidentally clips him in the head, and Gary Rowan comes off a bit groggy? He'd be feeling pretty stiff this week, and I'm sure there's a pretty disgruntled Brad Scott.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, now going to cast our eyes back to Friday night. Yeah, you're not going to be a big fan of this, but we have to touch on it. Your Bombers taking on the Swannies. All right, the siren's gone. Myers is 65, 70 metres out.
Yeah, it was probably a 60 metre. Oh,
Yeah.
It was probably 60 out from the goal line, so it'd be a 65 metre kick.
Yeah, he's a big roos of the footy.
He's the biggest boot in our club, but that's a
2
big
hours
roost.
into the game. Yeah, I mean, your legs
From
pretty
an
tight,
angle,
From
yeah.
an angle. Yeah, they should practice the torpedo, I reckon. I reckon if he was good at a torp, he could have made it. But
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, most of the footy universe woke up to it on the Saturday morning. No one really noticed it on the night.
I didn't. Obviously, I
Yeah.
was pretty filthy,
No,
so I didn't stick
absolutely.
around to watch the post-match with Hamish McLaughlin and
Jimmy Bartell.
Yep.
But Jimmy Bartell picked up on it pretty quickly in the post-match. That Sydney's co-captain, Dane Rampey, actually mounted the goalpost and climbed up to the top, pretty much the top of the pad. It's ridiculous that people are arguing, yeah, but he wasn't shaking. He wasn't in the action of shaking the post. I'm sorry, but a bloke that weighs over 80 kilos, I suspect, jumping onto a goalpost, it's going to shake.
Yeah, this is the thing. I'm pretty sure he was trying to.
Yeah.
The goalpost, we'll go back to physics.
Yeah.
The goalpost at that height would be really hard to move, though.
Yeah.
Right? The movement's up the top.
Yeah.
So he was definitely trying to shake the goalpost, or he was definitely 100% deliberately trying to affect the goalpost.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is essentially what the rule says.
Yeah. Absolutely baffling that the umpire asks him warns him, like, Dane, can you please hop down? Was it twice?
It was twice.
It was twice, yeah. Would he go, hey, Dane, sorry, Dane, don't push him in the back, that's a warning. Oh, did you just push him in the back again? Okay, free kick, push in the back. They don't do that. So why is it different here? It's not a guideline, it's a written rule, it's in the law of the game that you cannot fault with equipment.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard and fast rule the way it's written.
Yeah.
And I'll give you, so like in terms of the actual umpire,
Yeah.
The man that was charged with making that decision,
Yeah.
I'll say the nicest possible thing I can about him. He's clearly inept at his job and an ignoramus, because ultimately, the only logical piece that fits for me when I watch that back is that he knows that that's something the player shouldn't do, but he's not aware of the penalty. So he knows that once he blows his whistle, he doesn't know what he's going to do after that.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me why you would warn someone twice to stop doing something that you
Well, he would have
should
been trying to think of the outcome.
Well,
like,
there's
what
no,
do I do here?
There's no rule book
Yeah,
out on
yeah,
the field,
yeah.
unfortunately. You know, I've floated solutions to you in the past about what I think about how maybe having an upstairs umpire and things like that. We could talk about all sorts of mechanisms to clear that up, but ultimately
They
these
wear
are
earpieces, so there really should be that option anyway.
these are employees of the AFL. that guy has a couple of jobs.
Yeah.
But the number one is knowing the rules.
Yeah.
And can you run? If you know those two things, you can effectively be an AFL umpire. And it appears that they've had people out on the park that can only do those two things and not really put two and two together and make logical decisions.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It resulted in you guys narrowly losing the game by 5 points. And I mean, David Meyer, it was a stretch making that distance. But look, yeah, it's just.
I will say,
I don't know really how to describe it. Very frustrating.
There's a couple of ways to look at it. Obviously, I agree with a lot of people who are saying Essendon didn't deserve to win that. Deserves fine. We can say that. They don't deserve to win it. To say that they shouldn't have won it is incorrect because clearly the free kick should have been paid.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have a genuine, honest conversation, and it's not just about that incident, I'd like to kind of move that conversation to the step above. I've seen a lot of stuff online with people saying, oh, Essendon shouldn't be relying on umpires to win the game. Now, these disingenuous idiots that you'll find online that have arguments like that, we're not really interested in that because we've got an issue here where, unlike other weeks or the Collingwood-Carlton game where you go, did the umpires affect it? There's the butterfly effect argument to say, well, there was more kicks after that, so who knows what could have happened. This is one of the clearest cut cases you'll ever see of an umpire costing a team 4 points. And the conversation needs to be about where the state of the game is. You and I have spoken about fan violence for a couple of weeks in a row now, and we have to talk about it again. Unfortunately, it's disgusting, right? And almost every single week, they're in poorly umpired games.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely one of my talking points here. I've actually prepared a bit for this because I'm quite passionate about it. Yeah, it all comes down to the officiating and the way the state of the game from an administration level as well. Fans are angry. They want answers. They're not getting them. They want to know what is going on with our game. And, you know, all these changes have been thrown on us and they're not getting much of it right at all.
Do you think Gill and McLaughlin, I would love to ask him what the hell he was thinking. Do you think he missed the most golden opportunity to admit that his employees had kind of let everyone down on Saturday morning when he fronted up about this?
Adam Silver would have in the NBA, for sure.
It's amazing how many other sports would have. And how amateur it makes Gill and McLaughlin and the AFL executive look.
Well, that Adam Silver reference, I mean, and in America, I mean, how much more money is involved throughout all aspects of the game?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's important. And you've got to be honest with your stakeholders. AFL is a collective, and I'm not being honest. I mean, where's Steve Hocking? Where is he? I haven't heard from him in weeks.
It's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, well, he's made all these rule changes and people want answers to why that rule's in place. But he's been pretty quiet and it's really frustrating.
So I'll let you get back to that, but I suppose my point, to wrap up what I was saying earlier, was the conversation is not about whether Dan Rampy was shaking the post deliberately or not. I mean, we could flip these hypotheticals to make it your team on a specific day against a specific opponent, and you would feel one way about it or another way about it, depending on whether it happens to your team or not.
Yeah.
The point is that the AFL is in terms of the output of its employees, it is stuck in the muck so deep that it cannot even admit its own mistakes that are glaringly obvious to anyone that has a pair of eyes.
Yeah.
I'm really confused as to where we are at. These people are the gatekeepers of our game. This does not belong to them.
Yeah.
Who the hell do they think they're fooling, and why the should we let them get away with it?
Yeah. Oh, you're 100% right. It's baffling. You touched on crowd violence. Now, our game for years has been unique and wonderful in the way that there's no segregation. It's not like for round ball.
Yeah, we don't need it.
We don't need it. We don't need it at all. There's no flares. There's no carry on like that. There's no intimidation. This, that. Carlton and Collingwood traditionally hate each other, and that's just the way it is. They don't hate it. They don't go out. I mean, they don't organise fights down in Swan Street before the game or like outside the Royal. You know, they don't organise hooliganism. There's no organised hooliganism, but this anger and these, and I'm using it as an example. Like we've seen multiple occasions this season in the last fortnight where the crowds are getting out of control, and it's purely down to the way everything's being adjudicated, because you've got one set of fans that are fueled by they feel hard done by, they feel robbed. They're leaving the ground early. Other fans, the opposition fans who have had that possibly the armchair ride or the rub of the green, are rubbing it into them because that's, you know, a bit of banter. But it's getting ugly because that banter is not just banter. It means so much more than that. And you saw on the weekend the footage that was released. There's Carlton supporters spitting back at Collingwood supporters.
It's the worst of the year.
Yeah. And just all in brawl. And you know, it's a Saturday afternoon. I mean, there's families everywhere. There's kids seeing this, and the AFL still have no answers and no explanations. They bang on about being a family game. I mean, it's turning into a rabble before our very eyes. The AFL should be held responsible for this, because how dare they subject families and kids and things like that to that sort of behaviour? It's not them organising it, of course, but it's a result of everything that they're doing wrong.
Well, again, most weeks so far, like I said, it's been a result of their employees' poor performance.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if the umpire and their associations have KPIs, but it's time to make them public.
Yeah.
So that we can help track them as well. And if the umpiring boss is not up to standard, he gets fired. No compensation. There's no payout. You're on a performance-based contract, as is every umpire from now on. Because honestly, I'm not going to say all the violence is related to them, but there is a common denominator here every single time it kicks off.
Yeah.
Even we talked about the local footy, it was juniors over in WA.
Yeah.
It was the same result. This is a woman, unfortunately, that ran onto the field and attacked like a 13-year-old umpire.
A child.
Because it's a result of what is perceived poor umpiring.
Yeah.
How's that 13-year-old kid supposed to know what to do when we're having these discussions, weekly discussions, and it's not just the Essendon-Sydney game? We saw tweets from people about other games during the round. There's multiple games this round that were shocking. They're setting the poorest example in the world, the elite AFL umpires, for anyone that's trying to follow their career path.
Yeah.
Who would want to do it now?
Exactly right. Yeah. It's scaring them away. Participation levels are going to they're going to plummet if this continues. What staggers me the most is the players are confused. There'll be a certain call during a game, a certain amount of calls, and they don't really know what they've been pulled up for, and they get this long-winded explanation, and it's just a terrible look.
It's probably rhetorical to ask how out of touch is Gill and McLaughlin when, someone said, sorry, Gill, you can't go to polo on Saturday morning because you've had a bit of a furor at a game on Friday night. We need you to front up and explain the things to the wider football public. And his response is so out of touch with the expectation of neutral supporters, obviously supporters of the teams involved, any coaching staff, any player that follows the game, any commentator, and anyone that has anything to say about football. His comments were the polar opposite of what people expected.
Yeah.
People expected him to go, we got that one. I'll live with the fact they got it wrong and we don't get the 4 points. But the lack of admission, it's pretty horrible.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. The evidence is there. How dare you?
Yeah.
How out of touch is our chief executive, and what's going to happen to the game going forward?
Yeah. Well, he needs to make drastic changes real quick. I can honestly see the crowd violence won't stop if this continues. It's just going to become a repeat thing, unfortunately.
But we can't let it.
No, we can't let it. It's not a part of our game. We're proud to have that not be a part of our game. Many other sports around the globe have that, and they always have. I don't really have an answer for that because, I can't tell you if it's going to improve or it's going to get worse. We're just going to have to watch it play out. But given its track record, I can only see it getting worse from here. Alrighty, I think it's time to move on, Bob. What do you reckon?
All right, Jackie boy. Well, it is time for Hot and Cold. Alrighty, well, last week, Jack,
Yes.
I gave you two names that were running hot.
Yep.
You made some pretty bold predictions on these names, so I've decided to start a counter. For everyone that Jack gets grossly wrong, I'm going to add a single beverage to the grand final end of year frothy tab, and right now, he's 2 in the neg. So I'm prepared to wrap my lips around a few cold ones come the last day in September.
Saturday work.
Because Pendles, your prediction was 38 touches and a goal. I asked for a minimum of 30, 12 contested, 4 clearances. He had 26, 8 and 6 clearances and didn't impact the scoreboard. So that's a negative froth for you.
Respectable game.
The other one was Caleb Daniel.
Oh, shut up.
You told me he'd carry on. I didn't think he would. I thought Brisbane had pretty good matchups. Lo and behold, I'm right. 16 touches, 5 contested. He did track at 88% disposal efficiency, but he just couldn't find the footy as much.
Yeah.
This week, my running hot, I give to you another one of your boys. 2 favourite dogs, to be technically correct. The first one is Josh Dunkley.
Yes.
This man was moved into the midfield
Beautiful.
a couple of weeks ago, in place of Libba, it would appear. The numbers have changed dramatically for the 2 men. Dunkley had 36, 1 goal, 22 contested, and 11 clearances.
Massive.
On the weekend.
Yeah.
His season average is 22 touches, 3 clearances, and 10 contested. That's an enormous lift.
Yeah.
How much longer can he keep tracking like this? I'll be generous.
Yeah.
I'll give you the same numbers I gave you about Pendles. Can he maintain 30 touches, 12 contested, 4 clearances next week?
All right, we've got Geelong down at the Cattery, so it's
Indeed.
a really tough road trip down the
Indeed you
highway. He's going to have another good game. I'm not gonna be a sensationalist and get on a high horse and yell out disposals. But look, he'll get around the 25 to 30 mark. He will. He'll be in that midfield digging, hammering away.
I'm sure our supporters don't listen to you for your diet water assessment. Can he get 30 touches?
Mark my words, Josh Dunkley will dominate at the Cattery and he'll get 34 touches next week.
Great stuff. The second one, Sean Higgins.
He's heating up.
This fellow's been good.
It still breaks my heart.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah. Injured for years.
Look, he's
Goes to
North's
elite.
only elite player
Yeah.
for me. Ben Brown's very good, but he's North's only elite player. Versus the Blues, he ran at 37 touches with 73% disposal efficiency. And against the Cats, he had 31 touches, 1 goal, 1 and 17 contested. My question to you, will he win North Melbourne's best and fairest?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Lock that in?
yes. Yeah, go on.
Lock it in.
I'm gonna shake your hand.
That's worth a 6-pack.
10-pack of Jack.
10-pack.
Oh boy.
I like the boldness of this
Oh, it
week.
could be Trent
Jackie
Dumont,
boy.
you never know.
Now, time to visit the boys who need a little bit of a pick.
You're as cold as ice.
Shacky update.
Return of the bash of the Schac.
Look, last week we didn't quite have the stats in front of us. I'm sure some of you heard that. He had 15 touches, 0 scoreboard impact, but he did have 7 tackles. This week, you guys had an epic draw versus Box Hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic game. He had 14 touches going at 78%, 2 goals, 5 marks, 3 contested. Sounds okay, doesn't it?
Yep.
Completely overshadowed by Tory Dixon, who had 17 touches, 3 goals, 1 and 8 marks. Had a much better game. The week before, Tom Boyd had a better game than him. Do you think he can make it back into the senior team this week?
This week? No, not this week. I think it's going to be another couple of weeks in the Magoos at least. He needs to just keep this ball rolling. Keep what he did, but add some scoreboard to it. And then you probably see him get reselected to the ones.
Stay in your icy coffin, Schac. All right, these are the fresh faces that are running cold this week.
You're as cold as ice.
I had written down Devin Smith, but
Yeah.
we've seen the news reports. He looks like he's obviously been playing with a PCL. They said PCL deficiency for quite some time,
Yeah.
and that during the game against Sydney, they said 3 sharp episodes, I think is the quote, and he looks like he's going to get surgery on that knee.
Pretty painful.
So I'm not going to. He has been off. It's been pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put him into that basket because it's a bit unfair if you don't have a chance at redemption. So I've adjusted this week. I'll give you my first one. Tom Lynch of the Richmond Football Club.
Okay. Interesting.
Look, he started really strongly.
Yeah.
Obviously, he looked like a golden recruit. For the first month of footy, his goals per game were 3, 3, 4, 6. Since round 5, 0, 1, 0, 2. He had 6 contested marks versus Freo, but the first month versus the last month of footy is pretty worrying. Can you see him getting back into the Coleman race? And is he any chance to kick 3 or more versus the Hawks?
Look, the Coleman race is pretty... I don't know. This last month's let him down, as far as the Coleman race. I do see him getting back to really good football. I mean, Richmond show their resilience week in, week out at the moment, being so undermanned. Injuries left, right and centre, and they've just lost Ross and... I mean, they've just lost Nank for 6 to 8 weeks. That's a massive loss.
It's a huge loss,
It's a
and they
gaping
don't,
hole
they
in
don't
their
have
game.
much coverage. They've got Soldo, and then
Soldo
no one
and
else. They'll be
Noel Bolter. I mean, he's not going to. He did well on the weekend.
Well, they'll need to-
once Nank was out. But can you see him doing a whole game?
They're going to burn their
Yeah.
their mid-season draft on a ruckman. Clearly,
Yeah, obviously. Richmond are going to be thereabouts. They'll make finals. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, I do see Tom Lynch. I honestly think that he misses having Jack Riewoldt on the side. To be honest,
probably.
Yeah,
Well,
I think they
less attention.
complement each other really nicely.
Do you think he's any chance for 3 goals or more versus the Hawks? Considering he's probably going Chip Frawley had a good game last week.
Yeah, he was good.
So he's either going to get.
He didn't get rubbed out for that Jeremy Cameron, did he? The Jeremy Cameron, he pushed him in the fence.
No, I don't believe so.
No, I haven't heard anything. So
Oh, yeah, no, I don't
I'll
think
watch
so.
that space.
So Chip Frawley, he's either going to match up against Chip Frawley or Sicily at times. Do you think
Yeah.
he can kick 3 or more?
Oh, on the G. Nah.
No?
You might kick 1 or 2. 3+ is a big call off recent form.
Yeah.
I mean, Sicily and Sicily.
So you're saying lower?
Lower.
Lower than 3+?
2. Kick 2.
Okay, that could be a froth. All right, my second one.
You'll kick 6.
He'll
man.
kick 6.
Yeah.
Now, it's only fair that I swap a bomber for a bomber since we're pretty woeful the last few weeks. Anthony, McDonald, Tip and Woody.
You're as cold as ice.
He was electric for about 3 weeks. A lot has been mentioned about his impact in Essendon's wins and then how he goes missing in the losses. 9 touches and no scoreboard influence 2 weeks in a row. So he's goalless since we played North Melbourne,
That's a massive concern.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I will say that he's had a total of 20 tackles in the last 3 weeks and he's tracked at 80% disposal efficiency. So all of the numbers across the board aren't horrible, but obviously the lack of scoreboard impact is.
Yeah.
Do you think he can trouble the scorers this week at all, Jackie boy, when the Bombers take on Fremantle at home?
At home against. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Probably owe you another froth, but.
So we'll pencil him in for a Bunnings snag.
Love a snag. Yeah. Go on. I'll just. Yeah. Go on. He'll respond. I love him. I love him just like I think we universally love Tipper. He brings a lot to the game, and we all want him to play well because the league's better for it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's my hot and cold for this week. Jackie boy, I want to know what you've got the spotlight burning brightly on for this round.
I'm gonna touch on something really positive that I saw on Sunday afternoon.
Good.
I absolutely loved it. It was the Box Hill Footscray clash at the MCG, the curtain raiser for the Hawks game, and it was Hawthorne legend, 4-time premiership ex-captain Jared Ruffhead. He booted 5 goals. His post-game interview was classic Ruffy. They asked him how he thought he went, and his response was, "Well, I'm the only one to kick 5 on the G this weekend." So, classic Ruff. I loved it. He's just such a great character.
Pretty laconic, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a good guy. But he was up against the young fella Ruben, and he's just a young fella trying to just busting his gut in the VFL, trying to make a name for himself. And Jared Ruffhead has been in our competition for 15, 16 years, and he's just the ultimate professional. He's admired, is admired universally across the AFL and envied by plenty for what he's been able to achieve in his illustrious career. But it just Sunday showed what Jared Ruffhead's all about. He's a classy man, and it shows that he cares for the game. He is aware of what these guys do week in, week out in the VFL. I mean, they work other jobs and then they go to VFL training twice a week, bust their gut, trying to realise that dream of making it to the AFL. And Jared Ruffhead is just giving this young fella his 2 bob's worth, because why not? I mean...
He's a loved character, Ruffy, much in the same vein as Bob Murphy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you Nick Riewoldt and stuff. Yeah. So what I liked the most about Jared Ruffhead is his awareness that these kids are just doing their bit and they're trying their absolute best to realise their dream. And he's just giving, as I said, he's just giving his 2 bob's worth to help them develop. And whether you're on his team or you're not, for him to just give that time to that young fella is just invaluable. And he would have he'll remember that for the rest of his life.
He will.
Yeah, that's an incredible experience for the young fella. It just shows that Ruffhead loves the game of football and cares about it, and he cares about the future, and he's just aware of what they do. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, really happy to see it. Yeah, as a fan.
I can tell you loved it. Look,
I've said it about 4 times. I've loved it.
I don't particularly mind all that much, nor do I really care what the outcome of that is. But to be honest with you, I want my players to be like Kobe. So whether they're playing, whether they're at training, they're in the Magoos, or they're on the big stage, I'm not interested in seeing that stuff. I don't necessarily have a problem with it if it happens. But if I was if I was the captain of my team and one of my senior veterans had just been dropped to the twos because of form, when he came back, I'd say, look, I know that you're an elder statesman and we've got great respect and all that, but pull that crap again and you can stay in the Magoos because you're in there because you're not ripping blokes apart.
Yeah.
I know you kick 5 goals, but you got to rip them apart no matter who they are, anywhere, anytime, that type of stuff. Yeah. That's what I like to see.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was necessarily a bad option.
Yeah.
It's just not what I would prefer.
Oh, well, that's all right. And I agree with you somewhat. I mean, I believe it's different because it is Roughhead. He's at the twilight. He's at the end of his career.
Yeah, so if he waits 12 weeks, he can retire and do that.
Okay, all right. So we'll agree to disagree then. I mean, I love that Mamba mentality, that Kobe Bryant mentality. I'm all about it. I mean, I wouldn't want one of our young kids going back to the Magoos and doing that.
Exactly.
I mean, But if it was, say, Dale Morris, then really I don't have a massive problem with it because, well, he's just they're at the end of their careers. So that's where we differ. I mean, you'd rather him just wait it out and do it at the end of his career, and if he wants to give his 2 bobs worth during the end of his career, that's fine.
Oh, it'd be crazy not to have him on your coaching staff when he's done.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy not to.
Absolutely. And just to touch on Roughhead quickly as well, I was listening to Stuart Dew with Jared Waitley yesterday morning on SEN, and he was pretty honest. I love the direction that Gold Coast are going in. I mean, they've five games under 5 points?
Gold Coast.
I mean, they've been in games all year, and
they are having to turn them into scraps. Those are extremely low-scoring games.
Yes, absolutely.
But they are finding a way to keep themselves in it.
Yeah, but 8 weeks ago, we're sitting here thinking, okay, so they're going to get blown out by 10 goals. Well,
Agreed.
5 to 10 goals.
Agreed. And they cop some injuries too.
Yeah, I mean, they cop some injuries, and I mean, it helps when David Swallow's playing some really good football and leading from the front. But I mean, these young fellas, Sam Collins has been one of the best recruits.
Fantastic mature age recruit. Well done, Sam Collins.
Yeah, from the Wilderness, delisted by Fremantle, played a season back at Werribee, and he's back into the AFL system.
They might almost want to swap him for Joel Hamling at the moment. No disrespect to Joel Hamling.
No, absolutely.
But it's probably a fair straight swap.
Ross of the boss is scratching his head at the minute.
He could have saved some money and a draft pick.
Yeah, he's a big sized body. I actually believe he's leading the competition for intercept marks, which is remarkable. Is it intercept marks?
I believe it's Alex Keith.
Okay. Well, he'd be in the top 3.
And I think he might not be far off the pace. He might have been before the last round.
Look, I'm just hearing that. I've heard that from another source. I should probably look it up before I mention it to confirm. But I've been really impressed with that. And Stewie Dew touched on that. Jared cheekily asked him, did he make any phone calls to his old mate Jared Roughhead, who he worked closely with at Hawthorne? And he actually did. He just straight up said, I gave Ruff a call, asked him what he was up to. Is he staying at Hawthorne? Is he retiring? And does he want to come to the Gold Coast? Obviously, ultimately, he stayed with Hawthorne. I mean, that tells me from the outside that he's possibly going to, he might end up at the Gold Coast in some capacity in the future.
Interesting.
Yeah. So watch that space, Bobby. But that's everything I pretty much want to touch on, and we'll lead you into compare the pair now, Bobby.
Compare the pair.
Each week, I give Jack 2 players. He has to make a clutch decision on them. Last week, I gave you Tim Kelly and Josh Kelly. That's a long-range compare. That's a season compare.
Yeah.
It'll take some time for that to filter through. This week, I give to you Travis Boak and Clayton Oliver.
That's a ripper.
Now, obviously, Clayton Oliver had a pretty good game on the weekend, but
Yeah.
Boakey's had some incredible performances already year to date.
Yeah.
I'll give you some of the numbers to see if it helps.
Yep.
Oliver, his season average, 32 touches at 68% disposal efficiency.
Yeah.
Travis Boak, 32 touches at 68% disposal efficiency. Clayton Oliver's averaging 17 contested. Trav's averaging 15.
Yeah.
Clayton Oliver has kicked 1 point.
Only one behind for the year.
One behind.
Wow, okay.
Travis Boak has kicked 5 goals, 5.
Yeah.
Oliver averages 6 clearances, so does Boak.
Yeah.
Oliver averages 5 tackles, Boak averages 6. Clayton Oliver averages 6 inside 50s, Boak 5.
Yep.
Oliver 420 metres gained, Boak 480 metres gained. Obviously, Oliver's best game was on the weekend, 38 touches at 71%, and a bog, probably. Boak's best game, 38 touches at 82%, 1 goal, 1, in 73% time on ground.
Yeah.
So here is the question. If there was one All-Australian spot left in the midfield and you had to choose between these two, which one?
Right now, I'm taking Travis Boak. Yeah. He's been He's just been consistent year to date. He's been awesome. Their team's tracking a lot better, so he's playing in a better side. Clayton Oliver lets himself down with his with hitting a target going inside 50. I think he's the worst in the competition for it at the moment. Yeah. So
Good insight.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's worst in the competition for hitting a chest going inside 50. So I'm taking Travis Boak in this one.
Now, you said right now you'd take Travis Boak.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, do you think that will still be your answer?
Well, yes, I do. Yeah, I just think because Port are going to be, they're just going to be a better team all year. I mean, Melbourne are pretty much done and dusted, I reckon.
Yeah.
And Port are knocking on finals door. They just need to get those key players back in real quick, else it can get out of control pretty quickly for them. I just think I think Boak for mine. I think he'll sustain it. He'll just have a decent year.
Good call. Love it.
Yeah, so there you go, Travis Boak for mine.
All right, moving on. We are going to get into our match preview for round 9. Let's quickly have a look at the tips, Jack. Now, before the start of last round, on the leaderboard, you and I were neck and neck on 43, which is not too bad. We're doing okay. Last week, you got 5. And only because I changed that Adelaide tip did I get 6. You backed in your doggies and I chose the Brizzy Lions, so that's where we differed. Now, to kick us off, round 9, we have West Coast versus Melbourne over at Subiaco Oval. Last year, the prelim. However, Melbourne won in round 22 over there.
Yep.
And I believe big Braden Pruce is available.
Yep.
So who's your tip and why?
West Coast will win at home. Judging on what we've seen so far, they're not lighting the world on fire at the moment, but they're getting the W's now. They're starting to get a few wins together, and they'll keep that going. Melbourne are just, they're not who they were last year. They won't travel to Perth and beat them. West Coast will just get the job done. They'll win by about 3 goals.
Yeah, for me,
it'll be a slug.
I'm in the same boat. I've got West Coast 15 to 20 points. I think Melbourne needed some Hail Mary stuff to win against Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So, they're really not tracking that well.
They're although a lot more than Hail Mary.
Yeah, they kept the pulse going, but that's about all. The patient's almost dead. So, game 2, Collingwood versus St Kilda. For that game, it looks like Beams might be available. He's got a bit of a test on his hip. Who have you got to win that one, margin, and why?
Yeah, Collingwood. Collingwood will keep winning. St Kilda. I was pretty optimistic about them a few weeks ago.
You were up and about at the start of the year.
I was liking what I was seeing. They were ferocious at the contest with their pressure. A few of their players that have been crying out to perform were performing. Although losing Jack Loney, still no Carlisle, still no Hanbury, and no Jaron Geary. They're lacking real leaders out in the ground.
Agreed.
And Collingwood, they have 10 leaders out in the ground, and they're just going to keep getting better, and they're just going to keep getting the job done. So Collingwood will win by about probably 5 goals.
Look, I've got Collingwood by 50 points.
Okay, so they'll blow them out.
I think they got a real scare last week, and Bucks will have torn them apart.
Yeah.
I honestly think. I don't think he would have been happy with that performance whatsoever. Carlton played out of their skins. They deserve some credit. St Kilda, you know how I felt about them all year. Even when they were up and about, I thought the wheels were going to fall off. I thought that hype train was a Connex, not a Japanese bullet train.
Connex, like the old tin ones.
I never really thought that it could last that long. I'm probably being... I actually rate St Kilda a little bit more than a 50-point belting. It's only that number for me because I think Collingwood will look to atone for their first failure to get out of the blocks. The next game, Brisbane versus Adelaide up at the Gabba. Look, the Crows don't really love the Gabba trip.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Who's your tip, margin, and why?
I'm going to tip the Brisbane Lions. If they want to make finals, they need to win every game at home.
100%.
Every game at home. They drop a game at home, you can pretty much go, okay. It'll get a bit harder for them. But Adelaide are looking good the last few weeks. They're starting to get the ball rolling, and I think they're sitting 3rd on the ladder. So
it's amazing, but
it is, yeah.
Like West Coast, they've just penned in those simple wins.
Yes, yep.
Without being special.
Yeah, absolutely. Brisbane, if they want to make finals, they need to win at home. So Brisbane will win a close one.
Yeah,
I'm not calling classic. I'm not being outlandish like that, but I'm saying 17 points.
Look, I've got Adelaide to win by 2 goals. Obviously, we both think this game's going to be pretty close.
Yeah.
Should be a bit of an arm wrestle up until the end of the 3rd quarter, and then someone will probably pull away. So, should be a great game, actually. I'm excited to watch that game. Now, I'm going to see how genuine you are about your assessment of football when I give you Geelong versus the Western Bulldogs. This is going to be a massive battle in your household, Jackie boy.
Absolutely.
So
I go out with the most ferocious Geelong supporter one would ever meet.
Selwood should return, we'd hope, for
Yep,
Geelong.
yep.
And Dalhouse gets to revisit his old mob.
Yes,
How do you think
he's
this
lucky
one
he's
will,
at the Cattery too.
How do you think this will go down?
This will go down as most expect. I think it's one of those sort of... The Western Bulldogs record at GMHBA is pretty ugly. I mean, they've had really good performances down there. They've lost close ones, tight ones, and they've shown real. They're quite good against good sides. I mean, Geelong will win this for mine. They'll win by about 4 or 5 goals. Bulldogs will be, they'll be raring to go, and they'll be hungry as they always are. And they've just come off 2 pretty good wins. But Geelong are they're a well-oiled machine at the moment, and these are the must-wins. Their next month is, you can almost pencil them in for wins. So, and they just need to if they want to keep being considered as a serious contender. So Geelong will get the job done on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I have them to win by 5 goals as well. Okay. 30 points is what I've got written down.
I thought you were about to say 50 points.
Next game of the round.
Okay.
Here's the 50-point margin. Bombers versus Fremantle. Look, it's at Marvel Stadium. I'm hoping Joey Danaher returns. We haven't lost to them at Marvel for a really long time. They seem to get us every time over at home. But when we play them at Marvel, Docklands, we really seem to have their measure. Who do you have to win this one and why?
Well, firstly, it's a real shame that you look like you're going to miss Orazio Fantasia. And yes, it's Fantasia. He confirmed it's Fantasia. Anyone who thinks it's Fantasia, go listen to Basil Zemplis.
You got trolled by the worst captain in the AFL.
Yeah.
Oh, you're about to go blasphemous.
All right, put the scarf away, mate. Put the scarf. Anyway, Essendon will defeat Fremantle. They'll be back on the winners list. They'll win by about 3 or 4 goals. They love Marvel Stadium. They love running rampant on it. If they can get Joey Danaher in there, it could be a 6 or 7 goal win. I just don't see Fremantle coming over here and beating Essendon on their home deck. Essendon need to respond after last week. That was so sluggish. So many missed opportunities. So Essendon for mine.
Yeah, look, I expect a response. I obviously know this team pretty well. It's pretty rare that we'll go that many weeks of poor performances. Yeah. I was very surprised with the Sydney loss. So, look, I've got the Bombers by only 2 goals. I think it'll be a bit closer, only because even if Joey Danaher's back in, Alex Pearce is in fantastic form. So I think he'll do a pretty good job against him, unless Joel Hamling takes the job. But yeah, Bombers for mine. Now, next game of the round, what a doozy. North Melbourne versus Sydney. It's down at Bellreeve.
Battle of the Spoon, maybe?
Jeez. Shots fired.
Shots fired.
Look, North weren't too bad last week. And
really
obviously Sydney got a win. So
Ben Brown looked awesome again.
Yeah, it's not unfair to say that I think these two sides are pretty evenly matched this week, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's at Bellreeve. Sydney are 2 from 2 at Bellreeve.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
Interesting to know.
Buddy back, we would think, and with North's long injury list,
better for Buddy Franklin on the field.
Absolutely, there's a long injury list at North, and they're a bit short down back. Who do you have to win this one, and why?
I've got North Melbourne defeating Sydney down in Hobart. It's a little bit of a fortress for them, as you said. There is it 2 and 2?
2 and 2, Sydney.
2 and 2. Okay. So that's a bit interesting. We've seen North dismantle really good teams down there, and they've got such a strong support network that they've built over the last few years down there as well. In those conditions, I think it'll suit North. I think they'll win by. I think it'll be a close scrap, to be honest. It'll be won or lost in the midfield. I hate being that stand. Yeah, I mean every game's won and lost in the midfield.
Personally, I think it's whoever kicks the most goals, but carry on.
Get your hand off it there.
You just feel, Bobby, whoever kicks the most goals wins. North will kick the most goal and win.
Look, I've got Sydney to win by 15 points. I think Buddy is so important to their team.
Yeah.
And it's pretty noticeable. They obviously beat Essendon, but again, it was, for us, that's another low score, another week in a row. That's not a good enough score to beat any of the top teams. I think they'll put it on them a little bit. And I think Sydney's backs are playing really, really good footy, to be quite honest. So Sydney for mine. Now, unfortunately, this game isn't being played at its traditional, absolute, marvellous location of China. This year, we have Port versus Gold Coast at home for Port Adelaide. Who do you think wins this one and why, Jacko?
Port Adelaide will respond after a tough loss at the showdown last week. Sorry, Gold Coast. I think they're going to win by about 40 points plus.
Yeah, I've got 7 goals written down, so it'd be interesting to see if Gold Coast can do what you've been talking about, keep it to a scrap.
Yep.
But I think Port Adelaide's probably too good for that. They'll pull away a little.
I'm not putting any bets on, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. Rosie for 3 or more. He'll light it up.
All right, we'll put a froth on it.
No, okay, all right. Yeah.
Next game of the round, Richmond versus Hawthorne. Obviously, you spoke about the Nank being out earlier. So McAvoy's going to have a chance to, and Segler, to completely dominate the ruck. Do they bring Roughhead back in off the back of 5 goals, or do they leave him out? Who do you have to win this one and why?
Richmond will win. Yeah, they just need to. Coming back after a really good win in Perth. Might weigh in Hawthorn's favour, but I just don't see Hawthorn producing week in, week out at the moment. I think they're just a bit inconsistent. And they are, what Clarkson says, bit middle of the road, still figuring themselves out, figuring out what's next. Richmond know what's ahead of them. They know who they're missing. And, they're the key players that they still do have will stand up on the G and get the job done. They'll win by 2 or 3 goals. It'll be a pretty close game, I think.
Look, I agree. I think Hawthorn will look to make it. They haven't had 2 wins in a row all year. I think the message will be how important that is.
Yep.
If they want to salvage something out of the season. So I think Hawthorn will manage to set up pretty well again. They'll keep it close, but Richmond by 10 points for me. I think it could be one of the tightest encounters for the entire round. Last game of the round. It's GWS versus half of the old GWS list in Carlton.
Yeah.
Whitfield's back. Nick Newman is probably likely to be back for Carlton. And we could see Matty De Boer versus Patrick Cripps.
Oh, what a battle.
Who do you have to win this one and why?
Is that Giant Stadium or Canberra, did you say?
It is.
It doesn't matter where it is. GWS will win by about 7 or 8 goals. Yeah.
It's uncanny how close our predictions are. I've written 46 points.
46 points to be precise.
I've tried to be precise in this game.
All right. Yeah, look, around that mark for me. Yeah.
Well, that caps off all the games that we have to preview for this round. Now, let's digress to the money man, the man who turns your loose change into gold. It's time for Jack's Multi.
Look, I don't think I'm turning anyone's money into gold. I've got a little story for you after my multi that I am currently still putting together. We'll do a 2-legger. Got Collingwood to beat St Kilda 40 plus at $2.62. Brisbane to win 1-24 at $3.59 at home.
Good
Great
price.
odds.
It's paying $9.40
Paying
a 2-leg multi.
Yep, sorry, misread that. $9.40. Whack a cheeky one on for us and see how you go, guys. Now, I've got a quick little, it's just a punting horror story, really. So, Sunday afternoon, staying at home. It was rather cold here in Melbourne. And, Sunday's the chill-out game. It was chill-out day. It was Mother's Day, so I wanted to stay around at home and keep Mum happy. And, I sat down with my Mad Geelong supporting partner, Ali, and we sat down and what looked as though Geelong will just get the 4 points, which they did. I put a 9-legger on, Bobby. $2.50. I thought, why not? Let's spice this game up.
Oh.
Let's spice it up a bit. So Geelong, 1-39, tick. I had 3 anytime goal scorers, Gary Rowan, Gary Ablett, and Tom Hawkins, tick, tick, tick.
Oh, wow.
I had 3 disposal ones. I had Trent Dumont of North Melbourne, Mitch Duncan and Tim Kelly, 25 or more, tick, tick, tick. I had Tim Kelly 2 goals or more, tick.
Last leg,
I had Brian Myers.
G. Ryan.
Brian with a G, Brian. Had him 2 goals or more. 30 seconds left, Bobby. 30 seconds left.
Oh, no.
Took the mark. Set shot. I'm home and hosed here. And then I turn around after my sheer excitement jumping around the living room and Dad and Ali looking at me like, what is this guy on? It is Sunday afternoon. Chill the hell out, man. And then I told them, this guy is about to win me $1,000 off $2.50.
1,000.
1,000.
A gorilla.
A gorilla. Yeah. Tight angle.
Drifted
to the right. And that was game, set, match. 8 legs out of 9. Sports bet. Turn it up, guys. I could have cashed out, but because you keep your disposals at pending for the whole game, even though they were over 25 for the last quarter, I couldn't have a cash out offer. So shame on you. Shame on you for snubbing a champion. But yeah, there's my horror story, guys. Please gamble responsibly.
It's a fair horror story. Look, we'll see how you go this week.
Yeah.
with the 2-leg multi. Failing that, maybe
double.
if you don't hit any legs again,
Yeah.
maybe I'll throw one out there and we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll need to get rid of Jack's multi, and it might soon become Bob's.
Oh, Bob's bonus buck making extravaganza. I've already got the segment penned in.
Awesome. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. It's been another ripper edition of The Fat Side. Bobby, I've had fun. You, mate?
Oh, I've had a great time. We hope you all have as well. We'd love it if you could scroll down, subscribe, check out some of our other content, including our Around the Globe podcast. We dissect the Man City title win. We're going to go through the NBA conference finals and lock in our predictions. Can't wait for next week. Thanks again, everyone.
Oh, bring on round 9. Can't wait. See you guys.
Bye.